Not gonna lie, man. This Sunday, man, that's the way to end and cap off a night. She, I don't really want this night to end, man. It just feels good. It just feels good. This weekend has been off the hook, and that's the way to cap off a night, man. That victory that the Niners did, dropping a 40 burger, animal style over Whataburger, Texas, man. Feels good. It feels good. Look, man, there's just no comparison. It's not even, you can't even debate this shit. At least not for like the past decade or 5 years. You can't compare it. I don't want this night to end. It just feels good. The sun feels good. A nice chill breeze, the sun setting. Man, shout out to my Niners, man, just for doing what you're supposed to do. You see, we talked about this in the past before, right? It's pretty simple. We have one of the most, what are you doing, little ant? We have one of the most stacked teams on both sides of the ball. It's just the time. It's just the time to finally clinch it. I'm not trying to jinx anything. I don't really believe in jinxes or anything of that nature. But this has to be the year. All right. Obviously, this, as the saying goes, as long as your team is healthy, right? The healthiest team is the best team, especially when it coming down to crunch line and playoffs and all that. The best team is the healthiest team. All right. So at any given moment, you can lose a whole lot of players. And that's the pain of an excruciating season, right? Is that your best players can get hurt. And hopefully, that's usually the downfall of a lot of teams, But yeah, man, it just feels good. It just feels good because, like, again, you just can't compare these. You can't compare these teams, right? See, Dallas, the Cowboys, they're an athletic team. They're big, they're strong, they're fast. But one of the things that they don't have is that they're not tough. They're not gritty, right? They're not really nasty. They're a finesse team. You see what I'm saying? Look how many times, I think it was safety number 1, Wilson. Look how many times he had to grab people's face mask. He did like about 3 times. You see what I'm saying? That's the beauty about the Niners, is that not only can they match your athleticism, but we're nasty and we're strong and we're tough. And that's one thing that I like about Kyle Shanahan. One of the things that I don't like about Kyle, he sometimes gets a little conservative. But luckily, it didn't matter who you put on, who was the focus of the game plan, whether it was Brandon Ayuk, Debo, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Mason, right? Trevion Price. It didn't matter who you put in. They were just going to pop off. That's how dominant it was today. And it just feels good, man. Like I said, I'm not saying the air and the water is a little different. But what I am saying is that you can't even compare it. It's incomparable. You see what I'm saying? Shame on Chris Collinsworth for trying to say, like, the Texas Coast offense. Like, there are no innovators over there. Mike McCarthy is not innovative, and neither is Dak Prescott. None of that side of that team is innovative, okay? They can't fuck with the Red Sea. It just you can't, bro. Just complete domination. With that being said, man, there was a whole lot of fights this weekend. I haven't seen the Josh Warrington versus Lee Wood fight yet. I was going for Josh Warrington. So I'm gonna try to catch that replay on DAZN. But from what my brother was telling me is that Lee Wood is just that comeback kid, that miracle kid that, pulls it out of his ass and just fucking gets the job done. And he did so with flying colors, right? He did the same thing with Michael Conlon, and looks like he did it again with Josh Warrington. I'm a fan of Lee Wood. It's just, I guess I got to stop betting against him. and start betting for him because he gets the job done. Right? He's one of those guys that, he's flawed. He's susceptible to getting beat. But again, going back to just being tough and strong-willed and minded, that's Lee Wood, and he gets the job done. You can be athletic all you want, Michael Conlan. You're just not going to out-tough him. Same thing with Warrington. You can be all dirty you want, but Lee Wood's going to get the job done, right? He's nasty. He's gritty. He's been there before. He's been hurt, and he gets the job done. So hopefully Lee Wood's making you a believer because I'm starting to believe him more and more. I don't know if he's going to try to unify at 126 with like Roby Ramirez or El Venado Lopez, but at his age, I believe 35 years old, which was what my brother was telling me, he'll probably move up to 130 and give it a run up there with them dogs and then, figure out what he wants to kind of do with his career. But shout out to Lee Wood, man. Again, I haven't seen the fight. I just heard about it, and my brother mentioned it to me. But I did watch the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya fights on DAZN. I was watching a little bit of, I think his first name is Eric Tudor. And he came up short as a young prospect, I think 7-0 or 9-0, and he lost to not even a veteran, just another fighter as well. But that's been in there with Jermaine Ortiz. Oh, give me a second, guys. Yo. Yo. Yo, what's going on, Jermaine?
You were going to go live?
Yeah, I'm going live right now, bro. I'm sending you and Diesel the link.
Why this late, bro?
Because, I'm not going to interrupt the Niner game, bro. I'm already going live right now. So if you want to hop in. Hey, bro, we'll just shoot the shit for like 30, 20 minutes. Wrap it up, brush your teeth, fall asleep. Boom, that's it.
All right, go live then.
All right, bro. See you in a bit. Yo, pardon the interruption, man. But yeah, man, it just feels good. But as I was saying, I was watching the Oscar De La Hoya fights. Well, at least the main event. I guess they ended or started relatively early. So I guess I might have overstepped on the undercards, but thank God for DAZN and the replay value almost instantly. That's one of the things that I like about DAZN. Actually, scratch that. That's one of the things I love about DAZN, all right? That they understand this new era, especially when it comes down to streaming and the fact that you can instantly replay certain situations, because that's key and vital. You see, DirecTV and all these cable companies like Showtime, they're not. This is the adapting with the times, all right? And it's a simple philosophy. For instance, every time, if I pay for a pay-per-view, Showtime and HBO, if I pay for a pay-per-view, I want to be able to feel like I own the fucking pay-per-view. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that means if I pay $100 or $85 for a pay-per-view between Tank and Ryan Garcia, between I don't know, give me another high-profile fight, David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant. In case I miss a knockout, in case I miss 2 rounds and I have to use the restroom, in case I have to do a beer run or a chicken run or get some, extra tri-tip in sides, or I got to cook more food. I want to be able to replay it 10 seconds past or tomorrow and watch it and study it. I don't want to wait the following Saturday so I can subscribe for a month for your streaming services. I hate when Showtime does it. Again, when I pay for a pay-per-view, I want to instantly watch it. And that's what DAZN supplies that Showtime never did, right? So, for instance, in the beginning of the year, right, we had Ryan Garcia fight Tank Davis, right? This is April 20th or so, and they fought. After the night ended, I wanted to watch it again. I just wanted to replay all from scratch. But guess what? If I don't record it on my TV, Showtime won't give me access to something that I just purchased. So I feel played. You see what I'm saying? There's no streaming storytelling platform or story or show on Showtime that I'm interested in watching. So I don't want to subscribe and give you guys an additional money. And that's one thing that I love about DAZN is that they let me replay the shit that I just purchased if they have a pay-per-view. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I'm personally not sad to watch Showtime go. I don't really care about Showtime. Even their Showtime After Dark, I don't care about it. And it's because of that same reason. Their product and fights, especially me as a diehard boxing fan, is not accessible. They're very restrictive. And that's one thing that I like about the zone is that they're accessible. Okay. And it's just a simple change of philosophy. All right. Nothing about Showtime is innovative. Nothing about Showtime boxing is innovative. All right. Steven Espinoza, I like him. He's a fan of boxing. But aside from that, nothing. I'm not sad to see Showtime go. Okay. I want a new player to arrive and understand not only just being a boxing fan, but have innovative platforms. It's really simple. See, this one of the things that I was very sad to see and sad to go was HBO, especially Max Kellerman After Dark, or the sit down with Max Kellerman, that little face off. That thing was amazing. Go replay Sergio Maravilla versus Chavez Jr. sit down, right? Miguel Cotto and Antonio Margarito. All these situations, HBO was that platform. Their voice, even seeing Jim Lampley, right, and these modern YouTube channels, it feels refreshing just to hear him speak, right? Not only just to hear his voice, like they say, the voice is the fingertip of the soul. Not just little aspects of it, but it brings it back. It reels it in, right? Yo, what's going on? Speed mic check, real quick.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Yes, sir, man. What's going on, bro? How'd you like that Niner game?
For my very first football game and about that I've watched in about 5 6 years, I think it was pretty pretty boring game. Uh, Interesting because it obviously brought to light a lot of things about the Niners. I don't know nothing about football. I haven't followed football in years, but I would say if any team looks like they're gonna win the Super Bowl, I would say that's the kind of team that'll take it. But I heard that the 49ers were gonna face off a very hard uh, team in the Cowboys, but I don't think that looked hard at all, man. So I thought it was impressive. I grew up a 49er fan. I stopped the following football because I became just too busy with work and car restoration and taking up other hobbies. And football just became that thing that took up too much of my time. So I gave that one up, and I can't say that I changed anything about it. But after not watching a game in years, it was fun to come back and say, hey, the team that I grew up with is very competitive, dominant team, and I don't regret watching that. Now, I should mention that whenever I've worked, gone mountain biking or worked on my cars, although I don't watch 49er games, I do tend to hear them periodically on the YouTube channels like Chat Sports. But otherwise, I think it was a very dominant display by one of the best teams in all of NFL history.
Yeah, absolutely, man. They like I was saying a little earlier, it just feels good. You see, the Niners have been one of the dominant teams in the NFL for maybe the past 5 7 years, maybe the past 10 years. If you in totality since 2012, or maybe even 2009 to right now, they've been very dominant. You know what I'm saying? Not only have they gone to multiple playoffs games, they've been to 2 Super Bowls, yet haven't been able to win it. A couple of 4 or 5 NFC Championship games, and so you know it's already great seeing them win. But just to capture the moment, right? Nothing ices the cake more than a Super Bowl victory. So that's the expectation right now. If you're like a franchise that's never won much or gone to a playoff game or whatever's, then you'll be like, man, I'm happy for my team regardless. But because that's the expectation of greatness, right? Like the Yankees, they spend so much money, they have a history or culture of winning. If they
Hmm.
don't win one, it's a failure, right? A super or fucking I don't know, an MLB trophy. I don't know, the World Series. So that's the standard.
Hmm.
So yeah, the Niners have been one of the more dominant teams, and that's the situation. It's like in boxing, right? And now the goal is to be the best, is to be undisputed. That's what we reference the best, right?
Uh-huh.
If you're just a champion and just have one of the belts, but there's three other champions, then you don't really know who's the best until you fight the best. And then once you feel undisputed, I'm not saying that you can relax and retire, but in essence, you can, knowing that you are the guy at your weight class. And what's the next step is either to move up in weight or to continue to defend your throne. You know what I'm saying? And be the king of the jungle. And that's basically what it is. Once you've reached that apex, that pillar, that top seed, that gold medal, right? The next best thing is to defend that gold medal.
Hmm.
So that's what it would be like in terms of comparison to the sport of boxing, right? It would be like being Jermell Charlo and you're undisputed at 154. So you'd be like, oh, what's next? Naturally, you'd be like, oh, well, you should move up in weight. But in reality, no. Naturally, you should defend your stance at 154 because you worked your whole fucking years of boxing, a decade plus, to get to this position, to not simply let a guy like Tim Kazoo strip you away of one of your titles. It is not to cash out on a Canelo payday. You see what I'm saying? So that's what the comparison would be. Of course, just like certain people, certain franchises, right? They have a culture of winning, so the expectation is completely different. It's as if you were Quentin Tarantino, right? And for me, I would love just to make one film. But if you're Quentin Tarantino, we're expecting every movie to be better than Reservoir Dogs, to be better than Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained, Inglourious Bastards. For an up and comer, you're just like, dude, I'm just trying to make a good short film. I'm just trying to make a good little movie. But when you're Quentin Tarantino, that's a different expectation. So that's kind of the same thing with the Niners. So yes, it might have been a little boring, but it just feels good to dominate. They do look like one of the best teams, but there's a few other teams that can compete. And it was one of the teams that injured our quarterback last year or this year in January and beat us, the Philadelphia Eagles. They too are the only other team that have looked dominant as the Niners. They too are the other team that are also undefeated. So whenever we face them off earlier
Oh,
later on this year, it's gonna be a good one. But with that said,
wow.
man, I don't know if you're driving back home or if you're already home or you're still with your folks, but I want to let you know and ask you a question. Were you surprised or were you impressed by Zurdo Ramirez this Saturday on his victory over Joe Smith Jr.?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, you know what? Before I forget, right now that you brought up Quentin Tarantino, that's funny, bro. That's hilarious because the other day I had a Quentin Tarantino right.
Wait, what was
You
you
asked me
kind of cut
about
off?
a football game. Oh yeah, yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm actually driving through the hills of this town called the Prudale. Outside so if you hear some intermittence or loss of connectivity, that's but, about a football game, right?
Whoa, you got completely cut off, man. Your mic is all over the
Oh
place.
yeah, I'm sorry. Can you? It's the mountains, bro. Can you cook for a little bit because I wanna get closer to the city.
Yeah, for sure, man. So basically, like, simple question was, were you impressed by Zurdo over Joe Smith Jr.? And I guess I'll go first. Um, this was the Zurdo I remember fighting at 168. This was Zurdo, that guy that threw a lot of punches, that had good movement for a guy who's 6'4". He used to be very athletic. At least the Zurdo I remember. The Zurdo that I made a highlight reel when he fought the Philadelphia native Jesse Hart and he rematched him. That's the Zurdo I saw. A guy that threw up combinations. He wasn't a knockout artist, but he threw head and body, and he knew how to dip low and roll, and he used to pivot. What we saw on Saturday, that's the Zurdo I remember at 168. The Zurdo that fought against Bivol, I've never seen that Zurdo. I didn't think Bivol did anything spectacular that I hadn't seen Bivol do in the past. You see? All Zurdo did was throw a fucking jab. He didn't really even feint. He didn't want to throw more than a 1-2. Zurdo was a guy that always had an amazing uppercut. It was like a 1-6, come back with a 3, or he would throw a jab, slip, and then throw like a 8, or I don't know, whatever a 7 is. And that used to be Zurdo. That's how he used to hurt people. And he used to go to the body. Just go watch Zurdo versus Jesse Hart 1 and Jesse Hart 2. That Zurdo, I believe he was still with Top Rank at the time. That Zurdo was dangerous. I don't know if along the way he started to outgrow that weight class, or he just started lacking discipline, or, you know, he just didn't have that passion for the sport of boxing anymore. I'm not too sure what happened to him. But the last couple of years, Zurdo, he's looked very mediocre. And even this Saturday against Joe Smith, I really wasn't impressed because it shouldn't be a rejuvenated Zurdo. You see what I'm saying? It should be Zurdo taking up another notch. Like, for instance, right, this fight was held at cruiserweight, which is, I don't know, 199, 200 pounds. Joe Smith Jr. is a 175-pounder who took this fight to fight you because Zurdo can't make 175 anymore. So I expected Zurdo, if he's calling out Anthony Joshua, I expect Zurdo to knock out Joe Smith Jr. Guess what? Not only could he not knock him out, he couldn't even knock him down. So I was not impressed by Zurdo at all because I've seen this version of Zurdo before. Look, this is the same Zurdo that didn't show up at all against Bivol. And now he's talking about a Bivol rematch at war cruiserweight. Bro, go back down to 175. No disrespect. You look really big at cruiserweight, but you don't have the pop. I don't even know if Zurdo would be able to beat Artur Beterbiev. Maybe he can beat Abadu Jack. You should be able to beat Jack. He's 40 years old. He's been through the ringer. He's got a shit ton of fights. But I don't know. That's the level where I don't really trust Zurdo. And he has the whole opportunity. Look, he had the world at his fingertip. Had he beat Bivol, had he went for broke, had he thrown more than just a jab and a 2. Like, I think that whole fight, he just threw nothing but a jab. I don't think he ever wanted to hit Bivol to the body. And this is a Bivol coming off a whole lot of momentum of dethroning Canelo Alvarez. So if there was ever an opportunity for Zurdo to make millions, to land a Canelo fight, it would have been to beat Bivol. But he fucking show up. So as to, you know, I'm not impressed by Zurdo. The fact that he didn't get a knockout or sleep Joe Smith Jr. lets me know Artur Beterbiev beats you. And it also lets me know that I don't care to see another Zurdo fight ever again. Because
oh wow.
That's how unimpressed I was. See, when there's guys, you see Mercito Gesta, right? William Camarón Cepeda. I'm a big fan of William El Camarón, right? And he looked very impressive against the 35, 38-year-old Mercito Gesta because he did something that nobody has been able to do in a really long time, and it stopped Mercito. Yeah. So I was very impressed by that. When you're supposed to go do something and you actually go do it, that's impressive because that's what you call following through. If you're the best player, time and time again, you have to go about showing the world that you're always the best player. You can't have an off night. And Zepeda right now has not had an off night. Zurdo has had multiple. So I'm not impressed just because he looks like a former self when he was younger. In fact, you should be better than when you were younger. Now with this experience. So that's why I really wasn't too impressed by him. He didn't dominate Joe Smith. In fact, I feel like Joe Smith actually hurt Zurdo. And I felt like Joe Smith could have won the fight had he started a little earlier. And better game plan to attack the body, not just headhunt. But it was still a very entertaining bout. I'm not going to dismiss that. It was a very entertaining fight. But, you know, again, at this stage, I'm expecting a different Zurdo Ramirez, especially one that's motivated. Or when Oscar De La Hoya te está diciendo, if he's telling you, You need to take it up 7 notches. I need you to go on seventh gear because you've been going on cruise control. And there was a level of urgency from Zurdo, which was nice to see. But again, a promoter shouldn't be telling you these shit that you have to do. That's just what it means to be a professional. And this goes back to what I'm saying, that I'm not impressed by Zurdo Ramirez. You outweighed Gabriel Rosado in your last fight by like 25 fucking pounds. So this is what I'm trying to say, is that motivational factor.
Well, it wasn't the last fight. It was that fight never took place.
That fight never took place because he couldn't even make weight. He wasn't even near the fucking ballpark. So
yeah. So look,
going back.
Oh yeah. So hey, so listen, I just wanted to say, because I know you were having a difficult time hearing me because of the intermittence, but you always start by asking me how I've been, right?
Yeah.
And this time you asked me about a football game, which is like, definitely not my forte. Definitely something I'm not too interested in. It's great that the Niners look good, and it's great that the one game that I decided to watch after years turned out to be a very dominant display. But the question about how I've been, and then the fact that you mentioned Quentin Tarantino is a much more interesting way to have started off my invitation to the live, because my past few days have been a Quentin Tarantino movie. Incredible. But what I mean by that is I'm talking about a Quentin Tarantino movie a la the Pulp Fiction, right? Where you have these trippy encounters, health related scares, um, just a lot of crazy stuff that you're like, what is going on here? Like, why is this a roller coaster of emotions and experiences and just a couple of hours? That had been my past few days. I had a family member of mine go through a health scare, very reminiscent to that Pulp Fiction scene where they had to give Uma Thurman's character an adrenaline shot to the heart. My daughter almost ended up in a coma.
Oh wow.
My daughter woke up and see. So there's this. I never knew this, right? My daughter, she's 19 years of age now. She has type 1 diabetes, and when she contracted type 1 diabetes, when she became type 1 diabetic, like around the age of 8, all of a sudden, it was a very horrible experience, right? Because she had other health conditions, but all of a sudden, when you're watching your child just shrivel and change color, and you can't account for it, and you're asking this child what's wrong, and they can't really express themselves, you tend to think, the unimaginable, what's going on. Um, but she ended up having type 1 diabetes, which usually is the type that you're born with. You don't develop it. You usually develop type 2 diabetes. Long story short, from the moment she became a diabetic to the age of 19, for the most part, as parents, both my wife and I, we've done, I would say, a very excellent job at making sure that she's grown up to be a very healthy individual that's overcome a lot of, things. Now, most recently, she became an adult. So we started to give her a couple of free reins, let her, do a couple of things on her own. But she's still my only daughter, right? So she's still my baby. So I still, take care of her. And I don't know if she likes it that I'm so fatherly, but I mean, I'm like that with all of my children, especially my girl. So a couple of weeks ago, she's been attending college. And a couple of weeks ago, she had what I called an episode. She was very hard to wake up. First, what I thought was very strange was the fact that she should have been in school, but she was still in bed. And I show up from break because I'm working remotely, so my office is just like 5 minutes away from my home. So I drive over there, and my son doesn't go to school that day, so he's like, uh, so how come she's still awake? She's sleepy. And he's like, I don't know. Does she go to school? Yeah, but I'm trying to wake her up, Dad, and she won't move. He's like, all right. So I try and wake her up, and she's not responding, bro. She's looking at me like with a distant look in her eye, like looking right past me, almost paralyzed. And I'm trying to draw my attention to her, moving my hands, and she's just looking past me. And I just thought
Man.
maybe she was having some kind of sleeper. Yeah, it was pretty scary. So I thought she was having some kind of sleep paralysis or some kind of uh, uh, sleep related condition. So I said, "Oh man, I hope we're not having to deal with something new." So it took her like an hour or two before she really came to being her normal self. And when I asked her what had happened, was she didn't know what to say. She couldn't explain herself. It looked like she was completely out of it. So I was like, okay, that's very strange. Maybe she stayed awake and lost, sense of time, or I don't know. But I just thought it was weird. So I left it at that. Last Thursday, my wife and my son are calling me and blowing up my phone. And my son, since he was there that first time it happened, he's like, Dad, it's happening again. And luckily, I had lunch right about that time, so I ended up driving over there, and I saw
Wait,
that
so
my
before it's
daughter,
like 2 times in a week type of thing, or was it
no,
just?
twice in a month,
Oh wow.
twice in a month, yeah. So this time she's kicking and twitching and looking at us crazy and turning very violent, and she looks pasty. Um, and I look at her, and that's not my daughter. So I said, they're like, what do we do? And I said, okay, let me start talking to her, because I can be I think I can be the only person that can get to her sometimes. But when I couldn't get to her, I said, okay, I can't control this. uh I have to call the paramedics. So I called the paramedics, and what I'm thinking is her sugar is very high because she was lethargic, she was despondent. And here's the thing, guys, this is a life lesson for anybody that has a diabetic person in their life. When a person is hard to wake up, or becomes paralyzed, or has a startled look in their eye, or looks like they're seeing right by you, what it means is that they're having very low blood sugars. And and very low blood sugars can put you in a coma. Very low blood sugars could make you die. It'll kill your brain. But we've never had that happen to her, right? So uh the paramedics arrive, and they start asking us questions, and we start telling them that she's type 1 diabetic. So she's not allowing anybody to touch her. She can't see these people, she can't see anything. So somehow, I think my son or somebody pricks her in her body to draw a little thing of blood, and they're able to get the blood reading, and her number is at 30. It's never been like that. So they're like, oh man, she has very low blood sugar. We have to give her like some kind of I can't remember what it's called, but it's like this, it's like a shot, right? That you just inject them right in the muscle, and then you just like pump that whole thing up, and then it'll raise their blood like to 300, because what you're trying to do is revive these people. But we're able to like convince her to take sips of like this Kool-Aid beverage, and we're getting her and getting her, and her numbers continue to like drop, but they're still not dropping too low. So little by little, we like fill her up with a bunch of juice, and we don't have to take her to the emergency room. They don't have to give her this injection. And all of this happened, right, just a few hours before we were singing happy birthday to my youngest son. Now, if you, one moment you're singing happy birthday to a 10-year-old, he just had his birthday that day. He goes off into school, and the other one who's supposed to go to school is about to die.
Hell no.
So yeah, and then this is how I celebrate because I'm obviously happy, right? I got my children with me. I take them to 100-degree temperature day to the beach, and we act like we forgot all about it because that's what life is all about. Um, I just wanted to say that because I think besides boxing, I like the moments when you talk about life and how you're able to analyze and employ what happens in the world of boxing and then place it in your real life, or you bring a personal aspect. So I just wanted to bring a little personal aspect there. This week was one of the most eventful, momentous uh, times of my recent life, and I'm so glad that everything turned out to be fine. Now, going back to the matter at hand, right? I was actually very impressed by Zurdo uh, Ramirez, in the same way that you were, which is he looked like that guy that used to fight at 168. And then now, correct me if I'm wrong, homie Ricky, but didn't he used to campaign at 160 once?
Zurdo, oh, I don't know, man. I think as far as I've seen him fight, it was always at 168.
Mhm.
But I don't know.
Because I I
Is
think
there an
this guy
opponent
has
that you mentioned that you know that he fought that was like, oh, that's a 160.
no. No, it's just that every time I look, he's at a different weight class.
Yeah, no, I think he always started at 168, but he's always at a different weight class because again, he's been lucky that he has top tier promoters that
Yeah,
want him to succeed and be promotable or exploitative, depending which word you want to use. And he's been getting basically a pat in the back for mediocre performances because again,
yeah,
the Jesse Hart fight,
mhm.
it's gone downhill from there.
Yeah, yep,
But
yep.
yeah, anyway, man, I don't want to give Zurdo too much credit. I think we spoke about him too much. Hey, man, going back to the family situation that you're going through. Hey, yeah, that's tough, man. That is a pretty
Yeah.
crazy just experience because I've we kind of talked about this off camera, but we've I've experienced something similar to that. Not me personally, but I've been in a classroom setting and I don't know what happened. Um, Other than the person had it after whatever it is that he did, you called it an episode. I think I'm gonna use that word as well. He started, he was this African American guy who was like 6'5", like about 270 pounds. He was a big guy, and we were in this classroom setting, and this dude just jumps out of his seat, right? I
Mhm.
just I thought maybe the teacher said something that pissed him off, but he wasn't being addressed, and he just jumped out of his seat. We're in these little wooden chairs, and he starts kicking and flapping his head and his move. It was like if we were at a rock concert, but this guy's just vibing to the beat of his own drum, and he's kicking the
Mhm.
walls and almost like if a fish is out of water. And after we noticed that, I think one of his friends, which was a girl, was saying like, "Oh, he's diabetic. Hold his head." So I think me and two other classmates, I go try to grapple his legs. His legs, mind you, are fucking strong, and he's kicking everything. Give me a couple of bruises here. This other guy's holding his hand. The other person's trying to protect his head so he doesn't damage himself, and hit the back of
Mhm.
his head, and whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden, he stops. This dude is drenched in sweat, and then he just stands up like the Undertaker, and he's pouring of sweat. And the teacher and everybody, it's a small classroom, like of 20 students, three people are holding this dude down, and everyone's just in shock and not even knowing what's going on. They call security, and then
Mhm.
he goes, snaps out of it, and he goes, "Give me an orange juice." So somebody runs down, and we give him some juices, and he pounds that sucker just straight back, like if it was a liquor shot, and boom. And he just snaps out of it, and then the teacher's like, "Look, man, I already called these are security. The ambulance is on their way." And this guy's like, "No, no, don't do that. The bills." He's like, considerate about the mom not having enough money to pay for an ambulance trip or whatever the case may be. And
Mhm.
yeah, man. So, do you know of any like signs or tells or symptoms? Like, how do you know knowing that you have a type 1A diabetes? How do you know what would be like the symptoms to give like the audience and the people and
Yeah.
even myself like to look for, like a droopy eye, you know what I mean? Like what would it be?
Yeah. So this is actually the most interesting thing about it, right? Is that I was completely wrong about what a low glucose number looks like, because my wife, who also has diabetes, when she is low, she becomes very jittery. She becomes very nervous. She becomes just, you can tell that she's anxious. She starts getting sweaty. Her hands become very cold, uh, because her body is telling her, I need sugar. I need sugar to go off on. So when when I thought when I think that a person's sugar is going low, they start acting uh, very nervous. They start breaking into a cold sweat. That's what I thought, right? So when you have low blood sugars or your number is dropping low, that's how you start for some people. Now, some people really don't have those kind of feelings, right? I guess some people just, if they're not careful, depends on the individual, they may just fall into a diabetic coma without even knowing, because their body doesn't respond, or they might be used to having low numbers so that they don't really think anything of it until all of a sudden it's perilously low and they've entered a state of comatose. Now, the opposite, which is a high glucose number, that's when you become very lethargic, very tired, very sleepy. You're basically intoxicating your blood with high sugar levels. Your brain starts to, you know, drown in the sugar, I suppose, and it starts becoming, your body starts, you just start becoming drowsy. So you become thirsty. You know, you want to urinate more. So if you start having more frequency of urination, or you're sleepy, or you're thirsty, that might mean you're very high. Now, if you're very high, a lot of other different conditions could happen. You can turn blind, your brain could shut down, you know, all kinds of bad stuff. But we've never had an episode like where my daughter's numbers have ever gotten low, neither my wife's nor hers. So the worst thing about it, though, the homie Ricky, is that it happened while she was asleep. Now, she went to sleep, and if her numbers had gone any lower while she was asleep, she could have been dead. The reason why she didn't is because when the thing that was suspicious to my son is that his sister wasn't waking up when she was supposed to go to school. So it went to, you know, rattle her up. And he noticed the same thing that was happening before. But this time she was just acting like 10 times worse than the first time. So if we had just not, if she didn't have any school, I fear the worst. But we had something to wake her up for on that day. Um, so now here's the thing. I like to make lemonade out of lemons, right? Um, I take this as a valuable learning experience. Now, the plan going forward is we're gonna have my daughter check her blood before she goes to sleep, and then make sure that that's at a high enough number where her blood does not have to drop perilously low. Um, so that we don't have to worry about this. So we're like, for example, the other day I asked her, I go, what's your number? And she said 160. And to me, 160 is pretty high. It should be like maybe 120, so that by the time she goes to sleep, because you know, breaking down sugar, you break down sugar by exercising. But if you go to sleep, you're not really going to be exercising much. You might just lose 20, you know, carbs of sugar or whatever during the night. So I figured she'd wake up at 100. 100 is a typical number for somebody that's not diabetic. Between 70 and 100 is normal. So we're trying to reach but within that range of 80 to 110. Um, But when I said it was 160, and then I asked her the next day in the morning how it was at 150. Now you take that and say, okay, so a typical night, you might just burn 10 glucose numbers uh, just by sleeping. So I'm sure that if we let my daughter sleep and she's like at 120, she might wake up with 110, 120 for 8 hours of sleep. And then we could check her in the morning and she'll be fine. But it was a very scary experience, the homie Ricky. And I'm not trying to be funny here, and my daughter is hearing us because we were driving back, from the game, watching it with family. Wait up, let me ask you. Do you? I'm not saying your name or anything, but you don't mind if I mention this, do you? Or you don't want me to talk about it, or you do? Or I'm helping people. I'm not. They don't know you. I haven't said your name either. You don't mind, or you don't want me to do it? It's fine.
Uh,
Okay, she said it's fine. So, I would say this, right? Um, if you've ever seen the first Exorcist movie, that's what it looked like. Uh, 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 discombobulated mutterings, uh, and some kind of a strange language. She was saying things that were unintelligible. Uh, with any touch, she would shake and start attacking towards that, but she couldn't see what she was attacking at. She had a very distant look. Um, but she was. It's hard to describe. She would move when touched or provoked, but otherwise she was completely immobilized, and it looked like her eyes were sort of shaking, like if trying to process uh, what was going. So yeah, so it's you should protect your people. Make sure that if you have any diabetics in your life, just make sure that you're always asking them how they're doing. Help them whenever they need some help. Always be alert around them. But yeah, it's a scary, very sad experience for father. But like I say, we I like to make lemonade out of lemons. It took a bad experience, but now we know something new. I actually feel happy and blessed to say that for 19 years uh, of her life, we never had this happen to her. But so much about her personal life has changed recently. Like, for example, she had a very long day of school the night before. So she had breakfast, but otherwise she was stuck in school for the whole day, right? So I never bothered to ask, did you snack or did you eat something at school? I just assumed she did, right? But she didn't. So she went the whole day just being studious and skipping meals as her sugars kept getting creeping lower and lower. And then at night, when she did have something to eat, she had a little bagel pizza, just probably enough to sate her stomach. That was never going to be enough to compensate for the continual drop in her glucose numbers. So now we know what to do. We know what it will look like if it ever happens. But I assure you, the homie Ricky, this will never happen again. This will never happen on my watch. And my daughter is responsible enough that I can trust for her to learn from this and avoid it from ever happening. But I tell you, like this could have been the worst uh, week of my life. But at the end of the day, it became uh, shit. I don't know how to describe it. It's really a Pulp Fiction movie. Um, so yeah, yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, man, that's very descriptive. I don't know if I mean I myself wouldn't put that information out there, but
Yeah,
thank
that's why I didn't mention any. I was mostly doing it like a PSA, right? I didn't mention any names. I didn't say anything that probably isn't too too enlightening to somebody that's already living that kind of a life. I figured I asked her for permission and she said, yeah. I didn't mention her name, so I think I'm all right. I think it's more
yeah, I
valuable
know.
to know. I think
You
it's
asked
more
for
valuable to know this
permission,
information.
but you asked for permission like during the live when you probably should have asked her beforehand. That's kind of like putting her in the spot a little bit. But hey, anyway,
Hmm?
man, I don't want to like make this into like a whole type of. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
thank you
So
for sharing.
listen.
No, that was very enlightening and very crucial. Yes, I can understand from a different perspective how you were saying this could have been the worst weekend of your life and the worst time of your life right now. Absolutely. I did
Yeah,
want to say and kind of ask another question relating to that topic. You said that you've been asking her, before she goes to sleep, what's her levels, what's her blood levels, things of that
yeah.
nature. Is there like a monitoring device, kind of like a text notification that alerts like the parent for a brother, or let's say her if she were to have a husband or a boyfriend, or is there like a device that lets her know like dee, 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 if it's like 30 or negative a number, you know what I'm saying? Is there something, or how do you guys go about
Yeah.
just upon when I was working at a jail as a deputy, we would do these checks, right? And basically, we would look for rise and fall when we had like a special needs person, just of if they're breathing properly, just of their, their lung capacity. So, is there like a device that gives you guys like a, like a heart monitoring device that lets you guys know, beep beep beep? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's an
Because
excellent question.
honestly, what you said, the only reason why you guys knew or your or her younger brother suspected of anything was because she wasn't ready to go to school, so he thought something was a little off.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why he went into the room. There's got to be like a more productive or efficient way, or a helpful, resourceful way, right, to really be able to come down, like and be on top of that because that's kind of hard to be there at that particular moment. Because let's say maybe her brother remembers, but let's say he's taking a shower or he's out with a girlfriend or he's out running and doing miles, and then he's not there at that particular moment. Oh, and he's just anticipating that his sister's getting ready for school when in reality he's just running 7 miles. Like there's got to be a more efficient way to
So
be there without
yeah,
necessarily being there. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's an excellent question, the homie Ricky. So the thing is this, you mentioned something, right? You said that that I may have spoken too much about another person's matters by revealing that. That kind of information, but for in order for me to answer that, I would have to reveal even more. But I would just say that my daughter has another issue that makes it so that, because see, the way that you monitor your sugar, right, is through this it's called a blood glucose monitoring system. And it's basically like this little, I don't know, it looks like a little pager, really. And in this
Yeah.
little pager, you insert like this little metallic plastic thing called the test strip. And what you do is you have this little needle that pricks the tip of your finger. You draw just a little point of blood, and you put the little drop of blood into this test strip, and then you insert that into this pager looking device, and that will give you a reading. Now that's a more antiquated way of checking your blood sugar, because nowadays there's these things called the CGM, blood glucose, a continuous glucose monitoring system, which is basically like this. It's like a needle that's in your arm or your buttock or wherever you want to put it. It basically the little needle has this little sensor, and it transmits your numbers continuously. Whenever you want to check your blood, you don't have to prick your finger anymore. You just insert that thing into your skin once every 2 weeks or so, and then you can just press the nut. You can just press it on your app on your phone and be like, okay, what's my number right now? Now you can set the little machine so that it's always giving you an alert if it goes too high or if it goes too low. But the alert can either come in the form of a chime or it could come in the form of a vibration. But when you're sleeping, you can't always hear the chime. You can't always feel the vibration. Um, and she has an issue that makes it so she can't feel or hear those things, right? So we've devised that we're gonna have to receive a signal. I'm gonna figure it out, but I think what we're gonna do is figure out if we, as parents, can receive the signal on our own phones, so that we can tell her, hey, or go over there and wake her up, or give her some juice or something. So that's what we're working on right now, like figuring, okay, does she want us to do that? Can we do that? Because it's obviously basically another person's medical information that we have to receive consent. I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to actually look into that matter right now because we've been very, very busy just enjoying life. uh, I think maybe we should have taken the time to like figure these things out before going to hit the sun and the beach the past couple of days like we have. But that's what we're gonna do, homie Ricky. We're gonna see if we can download an app that will allow us to remotely get the vibration or the chime that she would otherwise get, in addition to her getting it, so that we can all be on the same page and give her advice on what to do. And or at least if she's maybe at a place that she can't do anything about raising her blood sugars by herself, maybe we can rush to her rescue and take her something to perk her up. But now we're gonna be obviously making sure she carries little candies in her bag and other things like that. So that's what we're gonna do, the homie Ricky. See if we can download that kind of information and have it transmitted to us to our own phone. But I'm telling you, 19 years of our life without any issues like this, and then all of a sudden it strikes us. So we're still just asking ourselves questions on what to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Did you guys ask the doctors? Did they recommend any certain kind of like tips?
And so I'm telling you, this is so crazy because it happened at almost like the worst time possible. Um, she is barely establishing medical attention with a provider, right? So she just became an adult, like about a year ago. So she's still trying to understand how medical attention as an adult looks like and how it's to be received, because she was for the most part always receiving pediatric services. um, but yeah, this is just something that her own doctor probably doesn't even know her enough to really provide an opinion. I can almost tell you this though, homie Ricky, we know so much about how to help her out that a lot of doctors really don't. It wouldn't really match the kind of uh, proficiency both my wife and I have to take care of her. Um, but so if we told the doctor, he might just be like, "Oh, well, why don't you follow up with an endocrinologist who's endocrine specialist, thyroid specialist, works with the whole pancreas and sugar and hormones," because these doctors are specialists. But I don't know if we would necessarily need a doctor for this when we basically know how to manage things for the most part, since we've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, that's it's understandable sometimes. Yeah, man. So, but you said, because she's at that age where now she's an adult, so she's going and learning more. You said something about like a pediatric. So, can you guys go back and ask any tips and suggestions
to the caregiver that she previously had, like the past, I don't know, 19, 10 years, or no?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Because you
think
guys
we're
must have had like some doctor patient like confidentiality or some type of trust, that you can confide by seeing this doctor. I would imagine annually that you guys can be like, hey, this thing happened. I know, she's no longer under your care, but is there something of a service that you can, basically like kind of like a free consultation or just a little conversation, and boom.
yeah.
That's some wild stuff, man.
Yeah, so no, we could because she can see those providers still. It's just that she can't go to a pediatric provider. So like these are specialists, right? Um, so she can go to those specialists. But as far as a primary care physician, like a main doctor, she can't go to those because she's an adult. So she can see an adult provider for her main doctor attention, her cold, flus, physical examinations, where she previously used to well, actually, she did. She used to have one, but it was a pediatric clinic. Now she's going to an adult one, and she's only seen them twice, mostly for physicals, really, because I'm telling you, she's done a great job taking care of herself as an adult. So she's never sickly. Um, it's she's very responsible, so there's really how you just go to the doctors for a physical. You don't go to the doctor and shoot the shit. You go to the doctor just to see how your health is doing year in, year out. But yeah, I think that's a good idea, the homie Ricky. Follow up with their endocrinologist, who still will see her until she's like 21 or so, because of the health insurance that we've provided her. But yeah, I think we will reach out and say, hey, listen, does this have anything to do with the settings of the insulin administration through the continuous glucose monitoring? Because she has a pump that works with the CGM. So a pump is like injecting insulin continuously. But there's so many questions we still have to ask ourselves, homie Ricky. We don't know, but I think again, I think we learned enough about this experience to make sure it doesn't happen again. Will we have questions? Yeah. Um, are we going to report it to the providers? Yeah, likely, most likely the day of tomorrow.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Hope, wish you guys the best, and hopefully, like you said, you guys have gone 19 years strong. So you guys are gonna be very literate enough about the situation at hand. But yeah, man, always learning, always evolving. Um, I know we kind of deviated a little bit from the topic at hand, but switching over to a little bit of boxing just to kind of cap off the night. How you doing, Mr. Adam Hurley? I didn't see the Zurdo fight. Did he look good or no? I guess Adam, for myself, I didn't really. I've been watching Zurdo for at least 25 fights of his career. And going back to what I thought was his most impressive outing was against a Philadelphia native named Jesse Hart. That Zurdo showed a whole lot of potential. That Zurdo looked like a fighter that would crack the top pound for pound list. The fighter that would go ahead and conquer boxing, right? And become an undisputed or the face of Mexican boxing. That Zurdo was at 168. That Zurdo was the one that beat Jesse Hart twice. Ever since then, I felt like it's been downhill from there. I felt like he's plateaued. He's lacked motivation. When he had his biggest fight, which was the Bibble fight, he was flat. All he had was nothing but a jab. So the Zurdo that fought Joe Smith on Saturday, he looked like that fighter at 168. The one who's 6'4", can throw a lot of combinations to body, that had a slip uppercut off the southpaw stance with his lead right, throwing the 7 off the hip. The guy that would roll with punches, that would slip, duck, and pivot. That Zurdo showed up on Saturday against Joe Smith, but not the power. So to answer your question, if you have never seen Zurdo, that might be like, man, he's been amazing. He looked amazing. This guy's a force. But for me, I really wasn't impressed. Was the fight entertaining? Absolutely. Joe Smith came to fight, even as a smaller man, moving up and, adhering to Zurdo and Golden Boy's demands, fighting the fight at cruiserweight. Joe Smith's power carried, and I thought Zurdo's power just kind of looked like a guy with volume punches. So I really wasn't too impressed. Did he look good? He looked like the Zurdo from 168, which is good. But again, if we're comparing a fighter from basically almost 10 years ago or 8 years ago, I'm at this certain stage of his career, I expect much more. So to me, I really wasn't impressed. But it is good to that he fought with urgency, right? It looked like Golden Boy motivated him, told him, "Look, bro, you've been fighting on cruise control. I need you on seventh gear. I need you to turn it up a notch, like 10 levels that you've been fighting the past couple of fights." Zurdo listened, but I still expected much more. I expected him to knock out or drop Joe Smith multiple times. Hell, even get a TKO. None of that happened. So I thought it was a little too close for comfort for my liking. So I guess you would have to watch it and assess it yourself. Again, I'm not too sure how much you've seen of Zurdo. If you followed him from the Jesse Hart days and even before then when he was with Top Rank. So to me, I'm gonna just give him a thumbs up, but I wasn't really impressed. He did look good, but I expect much more, I guess, from the expectation of, especially if he's gonna be saying that I would like to fight Anthony Joshua or rematch Bivol. You lost your opportunity, buddy. And beating Joe Smith, I'm not supposed to be impressed by that. So again, it just kind of depends who you ask. But yeah, he looked very good. Like if he was a prospect and he was moving and fighting like that, you'd be like, yeah, man, this kid's future is bright. But now that you weigh in that he's 34 years old, he missed out on the opportunity to give the fight fans a really good showing against Biv when he threw nothing but a jab. I'm just kind of like, you're 50. He was trying to break Floyd Mayweather's record by fighting guys. No disrespect to Joe Smith, but fighting guys of that level, Sullivan, Barrera. Like, I'm not gonna call them recycled fighters because they're still very good fighters in their own right. But it just like, I don't know, man. I'm just like, bro, you've been having the same career you've been having for the last couple of times. Hey, Speed, I'm gonna let you hold it down. I'm gonna be ready to wrap it up here as we get over this shift change. But yeah, man, I'll put myself on mute for a bit, and then yeah, just because this topic went a different way. Um, Yeah, Adam Shirley says, I'll watch the fight. He didn't look good against Bivol to me. Yeah, he looked horrible against Bivol. Speed goes, give me a moment. I'll be back. Yeah, I guess that'll be for two of us. Um, Adam, I'm going to ask you a question. What did you think of Lee Wood versus Josh Warrington? I reckon you watched that fight. If so, what were your thoughts on that fight? I watched a little bit of the rounds. We were at the beach that day, so I kind of missed it and I haven't watched the replay of it. But Lee Wood being that miracle guy, and he's reluctant, he's tough, gritty, and nasty, and he can be losing, but never count a man out. He's like the modern Julio Cesar Chavez against Meldrick Taylor. I didn't see it, but I can't wait to watch it. Yeah, man, that'll make two of us. Give me a second, guys. I don't go. I didn't see it, but I can't wait to watch it. Yeah, man, I gotta catch up on a few fights myself. It's been a lot. It's been a very busy year of boxing, busy year of outlets. I was gonna say, Lick says, man, I want to see Tank get destroyed by Sean O'Malley in MMA. Wow, you think he would destroy Tank, bro? I mean, I know. Wait, Sean O'Malley. Okay, I'm thinking about the guy that just beat Stylebender. Sean O'Malley was the guy that just beat Aljamain Sterling, huh? I don't know, dude. Tank would knock him out, bro. Tank would knock him out. man, MMA is so different. Yeah, but like, is Tank gonna go into an MMA match with Sean O'Malley? I doubt it. He's gonna command a lot of power in the negotiations of boxing. I don't think Sean O'Malley is that guy. He doesn't. I mean, he can beat Sterling, but I had Peter Yan beating Sterling as well. Adam says I got Tank. Yeah, I got Tank too, man. He's very strong. He's very witty. Sean O'Malley does hot, but man, this is boxing. Like, Tank would either get taken to the ground or taken a roundhouse kick to the dome. But Sean O'Malley doesn't win in boxing. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think Tank would be daring enough. And I don't think Tank would be daring enough unless you paid him $100 million guaranteed. I don't think he's gonna step into the MMA circle any day soon. But that would be pretty interesting. That's funny, man. Now, as for Tank, I think there's only like a few select fighters that can beat him in boxing, and one of them is Teofimo Lopez. I think he can match not only Tank's power, but it would be his speed and athleticism as well. And I just dropped my fucking soda that I put on the roof of my car, man. Damn. Y'all give me a second. I'll just be fucking things up. Let me see. Yup. And I sure did. Man, there goes my manzanita sol. It's kind of like apple cider soda. Fucking guy, dude. Oh, well. But kickboxing is wrestling, MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Tank loses. Yeah, for sure. So on that topic, Tank would definitely lose, But, we talking boxing here, man. So Tank would knock him out with just a left hook to the body or left straight. I think Sean O'Malley has a good chance of beating Ryan Garcia, and that's pretty much about it in terms of skill level. Boxing is different. Boxing is simple, right? There's only 3 punches that you throw. It's a simple science, nothing complicated about it. But timing, position, setting up traps, being tough. No disrespect to MMA fighters, but I don't think a lot of them can hang in boxing. You see what I'm saying? They get tired, they can grapple, they can take down, they can go for, they can break your legs, break your arms, choke you out. But boxing's a little tougher, I think, because it's much more brutal in the sense of how much discipline and pain tolerance you're going to have just by being limited just to 2 ligaments, right? Ryan Garcia is just a glorified influencer boxer. Yeah, man, he's very influential for sure, man. But like I kind of spoke about it a little bit on the last live like a week ago. Even though he is an influencer boxer, he showed something against Tank that I think he can, if he really dedicate himself to becoming like a true champion, a dedicated boxer, I think he can do a lot of things, because in that Tank fight, a lot of people would think that he quit on that body shot. But I'm not gonna here to justify a certain man's level of pain tolerance. But a lot of people, if he really wanted to quote unquote quit, he would have quit after that second round, right? When he got dropped by that nasty left punch right to the chin that reverberated all the way through his spine and completely slept him on the ground. He could have quit then and just pretend to never get up. But he got back up and he fought for 5 or 6 more rounds going up into the 7th round, right? And then he got hit by a nasty body shot that upon taking a knee, you saw him instantaneously start bleeding from the nose. So that showed me a certain level of toughness that Ryan Garcia is willing to have. Everybody has a breaking point. We just found out early what Ryan's pain tolerance would be, right? Like, all of us can stick our hand in, above the flames of the stove. Some people can last longer. Some people can last 5 seconds, others 10 seconds, others a minute. So that's just kind of the thing with Ryan Garcia. But I liked how he was willing to get back up after being dropped. He also showed me in the Luke Campbell fight. And in that Luke Campbell fight, he acknowledged that he got dropped. He shook his head, and then he just kept on fighting. That right there, that lets me know that he has heart. Ryan is too slow for his weight class. When you're in these super light weight classes, you have to have good speed and good agility. It really matters, and I think Ryan Garcia is too flat-footed. Yeah, I agree. Adam Hurley says, I heard that Garcia had a serious injury to his side where Tank hit him. and sparring partner said he gave it to him. Yeah, I heard the same thing too. Lick says is way too flat-footed for this small weight class and depends on his agility. Wait, I thought I just read that. Yeah, man, I would agree. Hopefully, I was hoping that Speed or Drewski would be here to finish up this live, just because I don't want to be like, driving on the car and shit like that and speaking with you guys. But yeah, man, I just want to recap it really soon. I thought Zurdo looked mediocre at best. I have high expectations of him ever since that he was with Top Rank. So the fact that he didn't really look as dominant as I expected him to be, again, in the nature, if he's calling out a rematch with Dimitri Bivol, if he wants Anthony Joshua, the expectation of getting those top tier fights, I need to see much more. Basically, what I saw this Saturday, I think he would be in a competitive bout with the 40-year-old of Badu Jack. He might even lose to Badu Jack. You see what I'm saying? I should be able to tell you guys here open-heartedly that Zurdo would dominate and destroy and knock out Badu Jack. But based on what I saw on Saturday, I don't know if Zurdo has it in him to dominate a 40-year-old and Jack. You see what I'm saying? When I think Zurdo himself is between 32 to 34 and near 50 fights. So that's the thing about Zurdo, man. Is like I don't trust him. I can't confide in him like I would be able to confide in Lee Wood to beat athletic fighters and Michael Conley. You see what I'm saying? I can trust Lee Wood to pull off those fights. I might not trust Lee Wood to, upset Navarrete or Luis Venado, but I could trust him that he's going to give them a good run for their money, right? Because if he can take Mauricio Lara's power and outbox him, if he can out tough and out grit, a rugged, dirty inside fighter in Josh Warrington, I know Lee Wood's got the stuff. I don't know if I see that in Zurdo based on, what Adam Hurley and myself saw when he fought Dimitri Bivol. That was very unimpressive. Give me a second, guys, maybe like a minute or so you guys don't have to hear my muffler. Yo, just a quick mic check. I'm not too sure if I'm going to be getting cut off, but now I want to speak on something about being flat-footed, right? Being flat-footed is not a sin, okay? It's okay to be flat-footed, just like it's okay to have bounce on your feet. You see what I'm saying? Just because you can balance and pivot and you can circle around the ring and have amazing footwork, that's just one aspect of boxing. Like for example, Canelo Alvarez, when he decided to go to MMA, that wasn't Canelo. That was when he was flat-footed and he brought it toe-to-toe in the rematch with Triple G. So a lot of people look at being flat-footed as a sin or being very rudimentary and basic. But that's quite the opposite. In fact, if you can be flat-footed and understand what being flat-footed means, being flat-footed basically means you're always in proper stance. When you're flat-footed, you're always going to be sturdy and grounded, which allows you to be susceptible and have proper balance to get punched, right? And you're going to be either being blocked, rolling with the shots. Now, what you do afterwards, because being flat-footed doesn't mean you can't take a step back. Being flat-footed doesn't mean that you can't pivot. You see what I'm saying? You can pivot doing all that without having to circle and bounce on your feet. So being flat-footed is not a sin. And in fact, I don't know about you guys, but oh man, what's going on with this Halloween decorations? This guy's fucking what the fuck? Oh, I gotta anchor that down properly. Look, guys, I'm gonna end this live relatively soon, a little bit, But just remember, being flat-footed is not a sin. I bet like for like the first 45, 50 minutes, we were talking about diabetes and the CERN sad experience that Warp Speed went over this past month and this past couple of weekend. But yeah, man, on that note, Adam says Crawford and Zhang are more on their flat-footed side. Yeah, I agree. Look, but when you're flat-footed, that allows you to be in position to always fire off strong shots. Crawford, he was more or less flat-footed with arrow because he stayed in the pocket. He really wasn't bouncing and using a lot of angles like he did versus Sean Porter. Um, but yeah, man, I like, for instance, look at Shakur Stevenson. When Shakur Stevenson stays flat-footed and just leaning back or pivoting, he's able to knock people out. When he starts to get on his bicycle, right, against the fighters of Nakatalia, he looks very rudimentary. He looks like an amateur. So again, it takes skill, grit, toughness, and a mindset to be flat-footed and stay there in the pocket like Robert Durant. Now, again, with that same token, if you can bounce in and out like Victor Postol or Dimitri Bivol, that's obviously an asset. If you can be well-rounded in every single aspect and be a jack of all trades, so you can have different tactical game plans to always be able to adjust, that's basically the perfect fighter. But you can be a master at just being flat-footed. So a lot of people look, being flat-footed is not a crime. Yeah, what happened to that? Is he supposed to be like that? Because it looks like he broke his spine and he's tipping over. Is that what you meant, babe? Like he had to have like those rods? Yeah, that looks funny, man. If I can just tune in my camera and show you guys what's going on. But yeah, this looks he's supposed to naturally be right here. And his arms are supposed to sway. I don't know if you guys celebrate Halloween, but you know, I don't know what they call it, a pagan holiday, but yeah, we kind of tend to go all out on Halloween. Not all out. We just got a couple of decorations, but one of my scarecrows, he's looking a little demented. Anyway, guys, on that note, I'm going to let you guys go. I got a little bit of overnight errands I got to run. I'll see y'all on the next one. Hold on,